So I'm recording. Hi. We're going to be talking about CSS selectors. And so CSS selectors, this is, here is my CodePen.io. I like to use CodePen because I like to be able to see what I'm doing. This one is HTML, this tab is CSS, and this tab is JavaScript. But we're not doing JavaScript right now, so I am just going to move it so it looks, so I have more space here. Here is my HTML. I'm going to assume that you know your HTML. So if I added my p tag, right, and then I had a little poodle dog. Okay, so here, what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about the CSS behind it. I'm going to save it. So then we're going to add some color to it. I can call it by the element. So this is an element selector. P is the element. That's the tag of the HTML. This, where it says the curly brackets, these two curly brackets, that is my declaration block. And inside my declaration block, I have a declaration. And in the declaration, it will have two things, two elements. One is a property and one is a value. So one property I can have is background, and then I can make it a word like blue, right? Or you could use, so this is where the background of the paragraph becomes blue. I can make it a hex color. You need to have the pound sign, and it's 6 digits, or it can be 3 digits, depending on what you're trying to do. You can do 3 digits, which is 1, 2, 3. FFF means that it's going to be white. You won't see it, but you can make it black, 0, 0, 0. So that is the background in hex color. I can make it 0, 0, 0, FFF. I don't know what color that is. That's blue. All right. So, but I'm going to change it back to say blue because it's just easier for us to see what's going on. Now I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to have a new paragraph. I'm going to say, I have a little kitten. Let's see. Let me just, I have a little kitten. So I have a little kitten. There you go. All right. I'm going to save it. So notice all my paragraphs, right? All my element has a background that says blue. I'm going to do one more, and then I'll be like, I have a little pig. Okay, oops, pig. So let me, I have a little dog. Okay, so this is what we call an element selector. We can have the same thing for an H1, right? This is my headline. But notice that the selector, it says paragraph. It doesn't say H1. So the H1 doesn't get selected because we're only targeting the paragraph, which is fine, right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this up a little bit. Okay. So just to see the difference. Okay. The next thing we can do is we can actually add classes. To add a class, we're going to put in an attribute inside the HTML tag. So the attribute is called class. And inside this class, we can name it. We say, I don't know, introduction, right? Okay. Every class can be, you can have classes in different elements. So there can be many class names. There can be many names. There can be many class names there can be the same class name for many different elements. So here is introduction. I'm going to make this to call this introduction class. What we need to do is in the CSS, we want to do dot and then introduction. And then from here, I'm going to make the background red. Okay. Now we have our property, and then this is our value. Don't forget to always end your declaration with the semicolon. So this here is our paragraph, and this here is our class. This is the selector. This is the, so if I look here, this is the selector, right? Our selector is either going to be a paragraph, I'm sorry, the tag, the element, or the class name. Okay, so then that's what class is, right? Because I have class in the introduction in the H1, and I have a class in the introduction for a paragraph, it is now, the background is now red. We can create an ID. So an ID is also another way to specify what you want to do for this element. So let's say I want to call this description. Let me spell that correctly. Description. Okay, so in the description ID, to call it, we have to do a pound sign and then description. And then I have my declaration block, and I'm going to, I don't know, we'll make the background purple. Does that work? So it does work. All right, so purple is my description. So we have our three selectors. We have our element selector, we have our class selector, or we can have a ID selector. Be careful with an ID. You can only have one ID name in each page. So I cannot have description. I cannot have another element that says, let's say a span, right? I cannot have a span. This is a span. With an ID name, of description. I mean, it looks fine here, but it's actually not correct. So you can have multiple class names on any given time. So I'm going to remove that. All right. So now back to here. I am going to okay. Now we can call in our CSS, we can have multiple selectors in one declaration block. So right now, this is one selector with one declaration. We can actually have a div, and they're all separated by commas. So we can have a div, or we can have a unlisted, unnumbered list. So if I have a div here, and I'm just going to do this. Right? If I do that, or if I have UL UI, let's see, dog treat. Let's see, dog treat, dog food, dog water, dog house. Oops. Okay, so notice that I called these three elements. There's a paragraph, which is all of the paragraph, which is these paragraphs. Oops. Right. It's this paragraph, and then I called the div, and I called the unordered list. So the unordered list will have a background. I can even do multiple classes. So I could say introduction. I can call it I don't know, main, body, and then I can have another one. Don't forget here, they're all separated by a comma. So if I have I'm going to copy this, I'm going to make a paragraph, I'm going to make another paragraph, and I'm going to have a class name called main body. This is my main information for this page. And then close it. So notice I can have multiple classes, right? I could do the same thing for the IDs. Now, we can also have multiple declarations inside the declaration block. So here I'm going to call it the color for the font is black, and I want to change it to white because it would be easier to see. So here's my second declaration, right? And this is what happened. This is my second declaration inside my declaration block. It's good to know the vocabulary, but it's also, as long as you can understand and see it, it'll be good. The font is a little bit small. I want to make it bigger. So I can make the font size to be, I don't know, 60 pixels. Don't forget, I have my semicolon. Don't forget the semicolon, because there's been so many times I would forget the semicolon and it would break my whole website. And I'm like, what happened? Anyways, so don't forget the semicolon. So you can also have multiple selectors with multiple declarations. So this one is my background is red. I want to make my font size to be 40 pixels because I think 60 is too big. I can make my font variant underline. Does that work? Oh no, declaration. Sorry, decoration. There we go. Sorry, try that. Did that work? Oh boy, nope, that didn't work. Font. Was it text decoration? I think it was text decoration. There we go. So I can make that underline. Oh, I can make the font weight to be font weight is equal bold. Okay, so there are many things you could do with CSS. So this is just an idea, examples of what you can do. You can call multiple selectors with one declaration, right? You can do multiple selectors with multiple declaration. You could do one selector with multiple declarations, just so you know. All right, so that is the basic that's the foundation of like understanding what the anatomy of CSS is. Yeah, this is just the foundation, so you can play around with it a little bit more. And in the next video we're going to show the specificity. Yeah, I'll make another video about specificity on the classes, on the CSS, because that's also a very fundamental idea of how CSS works. Why does things work? Why does some CSS elements work and why others don't? It's because of specificity, or it's not being called correctly, but most of the time it's because of the specificity. Because when you have a huge list, a huge CSS sheet file, and then you start doing your rules, your declarations, sometimes they kind of conflict. And when they conflict, some things don't work like it's supposed to. So knowing the specificity and understanding how to debug it would be really good to know. So that's it. And I will see you in the next video. Bye. I need to stop sharing. How do I stop sharing and recording?